In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Folks, 42 days until Election Day, but the reality is we've already started voting. Early voting has also been taking place in various states as well. Ballots have gone out 2 weeks ago in North Carolina. We want you to please go to vote.org. I cannot implore you enough. I've had multiple people send me text messages and emails as well stating that they thought they were registered until they checked, and now they realize that they have been purged. And so please go to vote.org to check that first. If you have not registered, the deadlines are coming up. You must get registered, folks. This is huge. I'm telling you, you do not want to be waiting. Here are the deadlines. 28 days before November 3rd, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico, Ohio, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. 20 to 27 days before the election. Delaware, Kansas, Massachusetts, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, Virginia, West Virginia. 15 days before the election, Alabama, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, South Dakota. Folks, that is going, look, we can sit here and talk all day. We can sit here and say, well, hopefully Murkowski, hopefully Romney, hopefully Susan Collins will do the right thing. When you put your trust in them, you got problems. Let's go to my panel. Gary Chambers, Jr., publisher of the Rouge Collection. Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, political analyst. Mustafa Santiago Ali, PhD and former senior advisor for environmental justice with the EPA. This, Avis, is, and again, I have been ringing the alarm and yelling and screaming and been doing this since the moment Trump got elected. All of these damn people out here who was saying that bullshit in 2016, leave the top of the ticket open. Hey, Trump and Hillary, they're the same. They're no different. Guess what? I said it then. I don't care what you had to say about Hillary Clinton and super predators and her emails. She was not going to appoint the same type of judges as Donald Trump. And now we know, Bill Clinton has already said it, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was hoping Hillary was going to win and she can get replaced by Hillary Rodham Clinton. That didn't happen. Trump won. Some Obama folks were trying to get her to retire in 2015, saying, hey, don't chance it. She chose not to. Now we're at this juncture here, and look, it comes down to, look, the only way you can really impact Collins, Murkowski, and Romney's if you got a massive blowout in November where they say, hey, this is going to be grossly unfair to the American people for us to do this in a lame duck session. Otherwise, McConnell is going to push this through, and they're going to have a 6-3 advantage on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, this is the doomsday scenario that we're facing right now. And I completely agree with you. I am still furious. Call me petty, but I'm just going to have to be petty, okay? I am still furious with people who oftentimes, people who have huge platforms. The lack of responsibility that they showed in 2016 is absolutely astounding. And the only thing that's worse than the lack of responsibility they showed by spreading misinformation and potentially influencing God knows how many people to not take advantage of the right that their forefathers fought and died for, and ultimately find ourselves at the place that we're here now, on the verge of losing the Supreme Court for a good 40 years, on top of Black people being twice as likely to die of coronavirus than white folks, and on and on and on and on. The only thing that makes me even more mad than that is the cowardice that we're seeing now by those same people for not even being able to admit that they were wrong, and then to encourage other people today to not make the same mistakes that they made in 2016. You know, none of us are perfect. All of us make mistakes, but adults can admit to their mistakes. And then they learn from their mistakes. And then they share what they've learned with other people so that we don't make the same mistake over again. But by sitting here in 2020 and acting like 2016 never happened, acting like they never said what they said, and allowing other people and not saying anything when we have a new cohort of ridiculousness in this era, telling people basically to do the same thing that they told people to do in 2016, and then not to say anything about that is unforgivable. We need to understand what's on the ballot right now, what's at stake right now. We are facing a situation where it's not only going to impact our lives, this is going to impact our grandchildren's lives. This is not an easy fix. And so what we need to do now is everything humanly possible to make sure that it stops. I don't care what it is. It's everything. It's being in the streets. It's calling your senator. It's voting at massive levels so that there is no room for equivocation in November. A humiliating defeat is what we have to deliver at the polls, and that requires that we don't fall for the same foolishness that far too many fell for in 2016.
I'm real clear, Gary, in terms of making demands of any candidate. I'm real clear in terms of laying out an agenda. But I'm also very clear on opening my damn eyes and surveying the field. It's sort of like if I played football and I'm sitting here as a middle linebacker and all I'm doing is looking at the quarterback. I ain't paying attention to nobody else. I might get my behind beat because I'm not surveying the entire field. The reality is this here, and this goes for ADOS, FBA, Bernie Bros, every group you can imagine. I don't care who they are. This is real simple. If you actually say you want reparations, you ain't getting it with a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. You ain't getting it with 300 conservative federal judges. You're not getting it. You're not getting environmental protection. You're not getting voting rights. I mean, we can go down the line of all the stuff that your ass not gonna get if the Republicans stay in control of the United States Senate. Period.
Well, that's all of that's facts, Roland. And you know, elections have consequences. And I think that it was short-sighted and foolish of anybody to, one, not vote in 2016, and to believe that Republicans, for whatever reason, will not get out and support their candidate. You know, I concur with the sister. I think it's foolish. And as somebody that's 35, right, in that age demographic where my generation is not as active in voting, you know, many of them don't want to hear, you know, the age-old things about who sacrificed. But the real deal is you are screwing yourself by not voting, right? Because when you talk about all that's at stake, when you talk about the future of education for your children, when you talk about the future of healthcare in your community, when you talk about your ability to vote, right, if you so choose to, when you become a property owner, start paying some taxes on some property, right? And then your concerns are on the ballot. I think people will then take this more seriously. But when you look at what happens, the courts are where major decisions are made. And it's also, it can be weaponized against us, right? The courts can be weaponized against us at any point. And conservative justices who believe that the Black Lives Matter movement is Marxist and all of these different things like that, they will take that ideology to the bench and they will use it against us. And so for those of you who want to be able to peacefully, freely protest when the government has done something against your will, for those of you who want to marry whomever you love, for those of you who want to be able to have civil rights protections, to live where you want to live without being discriminated against, this is where it happens at. It happens at the bench. And so if there was anything for us to be concerned about as young Black people, it is how do we stabilize this thing by showing up? And leaving this to the older generation is how we got here. If you're not satisfied with the nominees at hand, the primary process is where we do that part. Okay, we have gone past that. We lick our wounds and we move on. The bigger question for me is, are we going to be mad at ourselves because we didn't go vote right now? Or are we going to strategize and do the work over the next 4 years to ensure that we have a candidate of our choosing? It's not about, like you said, Roland, this is the long game. And so if we're going to play the long game, we got to be dedicated, we got to be organized, and we got to strategize for the long game. And you don't just pick your toys up and go home because you didn't win in the primary. We got work to do.
Mustafa, I had a young brother text me over the weekend, tweet me over the weekend. He said, see, y'all older folks, y'all the reason why this happened. I said, bro, let me be real clear with you. I said, I'm 51. I'll be 52 in November. I said, you're in your 20s. I said the likelihood of me hitting 90 is rare. Not many people hit 90. Let's just be real clear. I said, your ass gonna be 60. I said, so you might want to invest in this thing to see. I said, it sounds dumb and I'm sorry, it sounds dumb for anybody 18 to 35 to say, well, y'all need to pick better people for me. No, your ass need to be picking people for you. Everybody got a role in this. And so for all these folks, Mustafa, who you talk to, who care about the environment, I'm like, yo, you better understand what's here. Donald Trump has put in significant anti-environmental people who don't care about drilling in offshore. They don't care about drilling in natural parks. These folks want to rape the earth in order to make another buck.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, what we are talking about is the infrastructure in our communities. We're talking about the infrastructure in our country as well. And when you don't get engaged in this process, you're just giving away the opportunity for you to actually make real change. Because I work with all kinds of young people across the country. I don't let folks get away with talking about, well, older folks made the decision or older folks need to make the decisions. I'm like, if you don't see somebody who represents what you believe in, my first question to you is, why didn't you run? Why didn't you get your friends together and identify somebody who you have trust in to run? So I just don't allow that conversation because it's a cop-out that we use whenever we don't want to actually get up off of our butts and actually get engaged in the process and have to do more than something that lasts for an hour or a couple of hours. Folks need to understand, as folks have shared, that you are literally playing with your life and the life of folks in your community. Whoever it is you care about your community, find someone that you care about in your family or your community. It could be your grandma, it could be your auntie, it could be your niece. All of those folks are counting on not only you voting, but understanding the power that exists inside of that vote, up and down the ticket, in all kinds of different positions. We're talking about the Supreme Court, but we also understand, and we've talked numerous times on this show, if you're tired of the police doing some of the things that you've seen, if you're tired of district attorneys not doing the right thing, get engaged in the process, because your vote can actually help to change what's going on in that situation. If you're not willing to do that, then you just have to be quiet. Take the ass whippings that you're going to get from the police and other folks, and excuse my language for being as real as I know how to be, because your vote can really help to change these dynamics. And we keep allowing people to pimp us by not allowing, ourselves to get engaged in the conversation and think that what we do doesn't matter. It matters when we do it in numbers. It matters when we do it through an intelligent set of actions.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. As our community comes together to support the fight against racial injustice, I want to take a second to talk about one thing we can do to ensure our voices are heard. Not tomorrow, but now. Have your voices heard in terms of what kind of future we want by taking the 2020 census today at 2020census.gov? Now, folks, let me help you out. The census is a count of everyone living in the country. It happens once every 10 years. It is mandated by the U.S. Constitution. The thing that's important is that the census informs funding, billions of dollars, how they are spent in our communities every single year. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston, Texas, and we wanted new parks and roads and a senior citizen center. Well, the census helps inform all of that and where funding goes. It also determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. Young black men and young children of color are historically undercounted, which means a potential loss of funding for services that helps our community. Folks, we have the power to change that. We have the power to help determine where hundreds of billions in federal funding go each year for the next 10 years. Funding that can impact our community, our neighborhoods, and our families and friends. Folks, responses are 100% confidential and can't be shared with your landlord, law enforcement, or any government agency. So please, take the 2020 census today. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov.